Welcome to SlamCast, where we chat with creatives about their process and how they navigate the grind of promoting themselves. We're your hosts. I'm Bria.
And I'm Neil. We're studio technicians and producers here at Slam Academy, a music production school based out of Northeast Minneapolis.
And today we are here with Mr. Bill, a multi-genre music producer and DJ, educator, and sound design mogul. Welcome, Mr. Bill.
We pipe and cheers.
Yeah. So again, thanks for being here so much. We want to just know like the history of how you got started into music and where it all began. So can you take us back to baby Mr. Bill?
Yeah, let me think where it started. I mean, my parents were kind of into music and they would like, just play music. Like they weren't like super into it or anything. They would just play it sometimes or whatever. And I sometimes think like if they were super into music and they played it all the time, if that would have like thrown me off it or whatever. But I think because it was just like something that wasn't like a full-fledged thing that they were into, but they would just play it sometimes. Like I had like a little bit of access to it, but not too much. And like every time I did hear music, I was like, this is the sickest shit ever. So that was kind of like the vibe of music in general in my household. I guess the first time I like actually got into writing my own music was when I was like 13 or 14, and I had some friends around me at school and stuff that were guitar players. They'd just been like learning guitar in their spare time and stuff, and I always just really enjoyed watching them play guitar. Like just seeing somebody play an instrument in real life would always elicit laughter from me. Like I would laugh because it was just so cool to see.
It is so cool.
Yeah, like they would start playing and I would just like laugh. And so I was like, oh, this is awesome. I want to learn how to do that. So I started learning how to play guitar. I had like a few guitar teachers. I was also just learning stuff from friends. And that was pretty much what I did. Just played a ton of guitar for a few years until I was maybe like 17 or so, maybe 16. And then my parents got one of those bubble iMacs, like the ones that just look like a bubble.
Nice.
And that had GarageBand on it. And I started messing around on GarageBand, and I just had a cable, like a 1/4 inch to an 1/8 inch jack cable that I would plug directly into the iMac, like mic input.
Oh, nice.
And just record guitar parts into GarageBand and kind of just like layer them, like record a bunch of guitar parts and just layer them in different ways in GarageBand. Very basically, but I was just like kind of, I thought that was impressive and fun and cool. So I did that for a while. And then I met a friend who was into psytrance, and he introduced me to psytrance, and I didn't really get it. But then I like went to a party with him, which are in Australia called doofs. And hearing psytrance on a big sound system, I was like, wow, this is actually insane. And then I wanted to learn how to do that next, because I guess that was like the next thing that elicited that kind of response from me that made me think this is worth doing. And then he was like, oh, I kind of know how to do it. Like I know they use a DAW, and I know that they like, layer sounds and, do sound design in there and all this kind of stuff. And that was like maybe when we were 18 or 19. And then he introduced me to FL Studio, and I messed around with that for a bit and didn't really like it. And then I pretty much just like torrented every DAW. Like I torrented like the early version of Logic, eMagic's version. I torrented like Cubase, Nuendo, Ableton, like all of them, and just started like kind of messing around with all of them. And I found pretty much all of them, I couldn't even make a sound happen. Like, in Logic's eMagic thing, you had the environment editor. And like these days I could probably figure it out, but like for someone who had no idea of what like even an EQ or a compressor was or anything like that, I just had no idea what to do with that. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like blank, it just opens a blank page and you're just looking at it like, what do I even do with this? So I couldn't even get Logic to make a sound. Cubase, I could like kind of get it to make a sound, but I could put an audio file into it, play it back, and be like, okay, now what? You know, like, what do I do? And then I found Ableton, and I think the thing it was about Ableton that made me like gel with it so much was just that the keyboard commands were the exact same as text editors. You know, like I'd sent an
Yeah.
email before, and I knew that Control C was copy, Control V was paste, Control X was cut, Control Z was undo, and it was just
Yeah.
the same in Ableton. Like in Cubase, I guess you can set your own keyboard commands, but I had no idea that was a thing back in the day. So I was just like, what
Yeah.
like I have to learn so many just random foreign like key presses that you know, not related to any previous information I've ever had, and so I think that's initially what made me gel with Ableton. Is it just felt like you were, you know, using a piece of software that you had already used before because all the keyboard commands were the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I started getting into Ableton and started trying to produce psytrance, and I was also recording guitar stuff into Ableton and like doing the same thing I was doing in GarageBand. And then I kind of just like, I don't know, somewhere along the line was like, I could just really do whatever I want in here. I don't have to make psytrance or lay guitar parts. And then I kind of just started digging in and like learning more about it. And
Making beats and stuff.
yeah, or just like, yeah, whatever, random experiments really just to kind of see what you could do with this stuff. And then I started getting into like, you know, Aphex Twin and Square Pusher and all of these people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I appreciated that stuff a lot at the time because I was just learning production and listening to their music. I was like, how the absolute fuck do you like pull this shit off?
Mm-hmm.
Which I now
Especially with the
know.
old stuff now too.
Yeah, I mean, to give context, the first version of Ableton I got was Ableton 4. So it was definitely not as fully featured as it is now. Like there was a limited amount of tracks you could have, and also the computer I was running it on had like, I think it had like 256 megabytes of RAM, not gigabytes.
Oh
So
no.
I could only have like one track doing anything at any given time. So
Oh,
what I had to
no.
do was like I would have to have my one track and, you know, do whatever processing I wanted, whatever automation I wanted, and then I would have to render it, and then I would have to put that render back into a session so I could have another track that I could do stuff on. And it was just this like constant process of rendering and re-putting stuff in, because it was just some random like shitty laptop that I got from my dad, that he just like had this whatever reason. It was like an old shitty Dell laptop. But I think that limitation kind of helped me develop a style of like resampling stuff a lot and
Arbitrary
doing stuff
constraints.
in what's that?
It was your arbitrary constraint that you just had set with the computer. You can only do so much with it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that kind of like helped me develop a production style in that I literally couldn't have like too much going on in the session at any time. I had to resample stuff all the time. And then I guess when I was like 22, maybe, so I'd been using Ableton for a couple of years, I decided I wanted to study at SAE. And actually, part of the reason I wanted to study is because in the tuition fees, I guess, were included was a laptop. Like they would give you a MacBook. And at that time, I was still in this shitty Dell, so I was like, "Oh man, a MacBook that would be crazy. I could have like way more than 2 tracks going at a time." Whatever.
The dream.
Yeah, so I signed up to go to SAE in Sydney and got this laptop and then started studying there. And yeah, I guess like throughout that time, I learned a lot. It was during that time at SAE that I built my website, which was actually because we had a unit of web development in the course, and I guess assignment for that class was you have to make a website. So I was like, oh, I could make a website and just like put up a bunch of my experimental like ALSs and maybe, you know, do stuff like that. And then I was learning a lot of interesting stuff at school, and I was like, oh, this is super interesting. I could like make YouTube videos and tell people about the stuff that I'm learning here at school that I think is interesting. Like for instance, being able to calculate delay times was my first YouTube video ever, and that was something that I learned at SAE.
Is
And
SAE the name of the university you went to?
yes, School of Audio Engineering. They have them here as well, but I think the headquarters is the one in Byron Bay. And I went to the one in Sydney, and I liked it a lot. I thought it was really good. I've since had one of my professors from there on my podcast as well, and chatted to him, and yeah, I don't know. I guess the rest is kind of history. Like I just kept doing what I was doing at that point, and it somehow worked out to become a career.
So when did the turning point come where you were able to be financially stable in your music career? And like, what did that transition period look like for you?
So while I was going to university, I was living at my parents' house, and they lived about an hour and a half away from the university. So I had to catch the train to and from university every day. So it was like 3 hours of train every single day for like years.
Wow.
Wow.
So I had a lot of time to just work on the train.
Mm-hmm.
And so during that time, I just, I don't know, made a lot of music, made a lot of like just random stuff. I learned a lot on the train. Um, and I guess while I was at university and living with my parents, I was also like developing my website and, you know, putting out YouTube content and releasing music and doing all that kind of stuff. And sort of throughout that 2 year period, I started getting bookings for shows as well,
Okay.
just like kind of random bookings here and there. And they weren't paying very much at the time, like $200 or something like that. But I
Mm-hmm.
was doing enough of them a month that I could like semi survive on it, given that I was living with my parents. So I didn't really
Sure.
have rent or anything like that.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe like a couple of years after I got out of university, I kept releasing music and all that stuff. And I would say it was probably around like, I don't know, 2013, 2014, probably like 2014, where I was like safely, I think, making enough from my website and enough from shows that I could kind of like get by month to month. Like I still had to be very economic. Like I couldn't obviously like just buy whatever I wanted and shit. Like I had to be super careful with money and stuff. But yeah, I think I first moved out of home when I was like 25 or so. So I would say around that age is where I felt like I had been making enough money that it was like safe to move out and have. I had housemates and stuff. Like I didn't move into my own spot. But yeah, I don't know. Probably like yeah, when I was maybe 24 or 25, I would say is when I felt like I was sort of safely making enough money to call it a career and like move out and do my own thing.
Awesome.
That's awesome. I love how you've made yourself so diverse. Like you have so many other things. You have YouTube. You're also Mr. Bill with your music, and it makes it so that multiple income streams can be made with just you being a music producer. And I think that's a very valuable thing for all people making music. That it's not just being on stage. There's so many other things you can do. Teach, provide space for like you have a Discord we saw. You also
Hmm.
provide the class on all those different classes on YouTube. I love the term you had on there, Abletoneer.
Hmm.
Become an
Yeah.
Abletoneer. I thought that was very cool.
Yeah, I think it's important to have a bunch of like income streams, especially these days where like music is just basically it's worthless. Like,
Yeah.
They want it for free.
I was talking to Ben Jordan the other day, and he was saying that these days most musicians, it costs them money to put their music on Spotify. You know, like they're paying however
Yes.
much it is to DistroKid or TuneCore or whatever to get their stuff on Spotify, and then they're making pennies per stream. So they're
Yeah.
essentially paying to have their music on Spotify. So it's like the music is subsidized by the creators themselves, which is insane.
Yeah. No, I think I even saw that video that he put out. If it wasn't him, someone did put out a video about that.
He definitely did, yeah.
Yeah, I love Ben Jordan as well. He's fantastic.
I was gonna ask, with all of these different outlets and streams, sources of income, projects, how do you keep it all straight? Like, how do you keep it all moving forward and organized?
I don't know. I try to be good with time management, but I'm not really. Generally, my day looks like I just wake up, I come to the studio, and I just usually just start working on music. And then I have a manager who's really helpful, who will just hit me up and be like, "Hey, it seems like he's just really good at like task lists and like making sure I'm getting work done."
Mhm.
So he'll be
Nice.
like, "Okay, it seems like you have to do this today," or like, it looks like we're running out of podcasts. You should like, book some more guests to do some podcasts, or it looks like we haven't uploaded a video for a while on the HCA feed. You should make some videos, or just stuff like that. I would say generally, I spend most of my time working on music. Probably like over 50% of my time just working on music, and the other 50% is kind of split between all of these things, like recording podcasts, making videos, playing shows, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's just a matter of, I don't know, working a lot of hours and trying to be as good as at time management as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff going around in the Mr. Bill universe. So I was just curious how that end works for you. And how does having all of these outlets impact your creativity? Do you find it helpful that you can break your day up more with more things?
Somewhat. I feel like if I just do the same thing all the time, I get kind of bored.
Yeah.
And like if I'm just working on music 24/7 for extended period of time, like a few months or whatever, I start getting to this point where I'm just bored of music in general, and everything sounds the same, and I feel like I'm just making the same song over and over again, kind of. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, during those times, it's nice to just like stop and do something else. Lately, I've actually been getting into programming and also building synthesizers. Like you
Oh,
got
cool.
modules in the back there. I've been building some modules and stuff, which has been nice to like get out into the garage and just work with my hands more than rather being doing cerebral tasks all the time. But programming is
Yeah.
definitely a cerebral
Mm-hmm.
task. But yeah,
So you
I'm
like,
trying to find more shit where I can like get away from the studio for sure.
Yeah.
mm-hmm. So you said are you building your own like Eurorack modules and stuff yourself?
Yeah, I already built a skiff worth of modules, and now my current project is I'm working on a back sandal EQ, which is just like a simple EQ with a high shelf and a low shelf.
Cool.
So, what is your process like when it comes to creating music? Do you just sit down and let your brain take over wherever it wants to go, or do you have a specific process for writing music?
I think it's a mixture of letting my brain go wherever I want to go, but also like having a sort of project managerial type of outlook to the whole thing as well. Because if you just let your brain go wherever you want to go, like you can very quickly just make an Ableton session that just has shit all over the place and like nothing really equals a song.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's kind of half like I'm gonna follow this random tangent that I just thought of, and the other half is like, okay, I should start like arranging this into an actual thing that makes sense. But generally at the start of the process, it's more letting my brain do whatever it wants. And then sort of halfway through the process, it turns into, all right, I should like clean this session up a bit. There's shit everywhere, and I should like arrange this into some sort of beat that makes sense. And it's pretty rare that I just have a beat idea from the get go where I'm like, oh, I hear a whole beat in my head and I'm gonna like recreate this whole beat. Like my process or my music is uh very process generated. So like it becomes
Mm-hmm.
music through the process of tinkering more so
Mm-hmm.
than I have this set idea and then I like execute that idea exactly. That almost never happens for me.
Okay.
I love that. That's how I tend to work too. It's a lot more generative and random than being able to compose out big pieces of music.
Yeah, I wouldn't really call it random. I look at it more as just like a chain reaction of processes. So it's like you do one thing and then you go like, oh shit, that gives me an idea. And then you do that next idea that you just got from doing the last thing. And then that next thing gives you another idea and you're like, oh shit. And like it just goes down this chain reaction of processes until you're like at some place that you could have never foresaw or
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
foreseen. And then, yeah, I don't know. And that's kind of to me like the beauty of electronic music is it's not like folk music or something where someone maybe that kind of music is that way too. I've never really tried to write it, but I assume a lot of the time people who write like guitar music and sing and stuff like that maybe have like the melody in their head and they like are already singing this melody and then they just have to find chords for it or something. Maybe it's not that way. Maybe they also just like tinker around until they find something. But for me, electronic
Yeah.
music is just like it seems like a little more abstract than regular music, and so I feel like it's kind of difficult sometimes to just hear this like very abstract beat of random noises like that are glitching between each other in your mind prior to actually to hearing them tangibly.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I personally am a singer-songwriter, so I know how to use Ableton, but I use
Mm.
it more of like a songwriting tool than sound design personally. But I think that it kind of works hand in hand. It's just a little less extreme than the
Right.
electronic music producer who's just solely tinkering around with sounds to try to find the next part of the song. But I still do the same thing. It's just a little bit more like it's a little bit less of all of that stuff because I kind of have an idea of where I'm going and there's a lot of repetitiveness going on. But yeah.
Right. So, like, would you say you kind of hear a melody in your mind first, or hear a vocal idea in your mind first, or hear a chord progression first and then execute on that? Or do you just kind of mess around until you get to that melody or chord progression?
I kind of just mess around until I get to that spot. I'm not
Okay. So
classically
it's kind
trained
of the
in
same.
music theory, so I don't know
Right.
how to play any instruments. I just like to press buttons until something sounds cool or an instrument catches my attention, and then it just kind of snowballs from there. So, still the
Right.
chain reaction. I just
Yeah.
have a little less work to do on the sound design part of all of
Well, I
that.
think almost like music is the process of having a lot of thoughts and then executing on those thoughts. And inherently, thoughts are a chain reaction as well. Like, you don't just
Yeah.
have a thought, and if you do have a thought, it's random for the most part, at least for me. Like, if I try and meditate or something, my brain just feels like it's been overtaken by the most obnoxious, boring person ever. And it's just like, it's just saying shit. It's like, oh shit, I should pay my credit card off. Oh shit, like, it's like,
That's
did I
not what
lock
I'm
my
doing.
car? Like, I need a haircut. Like, I just start like having these random thoughts, and I feel like when I'm making music, it's sort of the same thing. Like, I'm just having random thoughts, but they're maybe influenced a little bit by whatever's happening in the moment.
I can agree with that. Um, So your latest project, and sorry if I butcher this name, I'm going to try my best, but mechanomorphic,
Yeah, that's close. Mechanomorphic.
mechanomorphic. Okay. You have a lot of different collaborators on that album. I'm pretty sure every single song has a collaborator, if I'm not mistaken.
I think all of them but one. Yeah.
So, what's the process like for you with collaborating with that many artists on that type of project? Did you have that idea in your head before you even started it, or is it just like a culmination of all of these random collaborators that you've worked with?
It's more the later. Yeah. Like, I generally don't at the start of a project go like, okay, I can see the whole album in my mind and then create the whole album. It's more like just a product of the process. So I always just like to work with a lot of people. I just find it fun to work with different people. It's cool to see other people's processes. It's cool to have other people's ideas thrown into the mix that I wouldn't have thought of or would have thought of, but wouldn't have executed the same way. Uh, so I just enjoy the process of working with other people. It kind of makes the whole thing a little more rich to me. Like, it just, there's more ideas in the pool, and although maybe your specific idea might have gotten a little more diluted than you would have hoped, it's turned into something that you would have never made yourself, and I kind of like that. So I just work with people all the time, and usually when I put out an album, it was never supposed to be an album in the first place. It's just a combination of tracks that feel like they're a family to me over time. So, like, Mechanomorphic were just a bunch of tracks that I started with people that I'd been working on for, I don't know, a couple of years. And then after a few years of just, working with a bunch of people, I kind of, seen, oh, these tracks feel like a family. And so I'll put them together and call it an album.
That's
Okay.
cool.
How do you keep all of the administrative stuff behind that organized? Do you have people that help you as far as like coordinating things with people and their schedules or getting waves from people and throwing Ableton sessions back and forth? Or is that all of you?
For collabs, it's mostly me, pretty much, or all me. Yeah, like, the way I do it is I just set up a Dropbox
Oh, okay.
with the ALS in it, and then I work on it a bit, and then I collect and save it and freeze all the third-party plugins, and then I hit up the collaborator and say, hey, there's an updated version in the Dropbox, and then they open it and do the same thing, and then we just kind of do that over and over again until the track is finished.
Cool.
But in terms of administration stuff, like releasing the album, that one was released through Monster Cat, and so they did most of the administration stuff, like the distribution and whatnot. And then in terms of administration stuff, like I don't know, I guess shows, like there's contracts that need to be signed for those or whatever. So my agent does those, or if I have some sync work come through and then needs to be like some administrative work done for that, like a contract or something like that, my manager will do that. So yeah, I definitely have people help me with the administrative stuff on that side. But when it comes to music stuff, yeah, that's pretty much just between me and the collaborator.
Would you have any tips for anybody with like reaching out or working with collaborators?
I would say like just reach out to people whose music you like and be like, hey, want to work on a tune? But it's more helpful, I think, to reach out with a tune. Like if you already have an idea and you've started it and you're like, this idea is pretty sick, I think it would be awesome to have this person on it. It's useful to like send them that as well and be like, hey, I started this tune, would you be interested in working on it? Like I think you could add a lot to it. Or I'm hearing like a thing in there that or this idea reminds me of your stuff a little bit, maybe it'd be good to collaborate. I feel like that's the best way to do it. Or I mean, if you just have producer friends and you just get in the studio together, quite often that will result in a collab if you're just like both noodling around.
That's how it happens here a lot at Slam now. We have a couple crews right now working on tracks together like that. It's been pretty cool. Yeah, so we've been doing pretty good over at Slam.
Nice.
Yeah. How did you find the Slam community? Because you used to be an instructor at the Denver location, which is now closed, unfortunately, after COVID, but I know that
really?
you were a part of that.
Yeah, I was teaching there for a while. I liked it. Yeah, I always love teaching in person, especially to classes. It's always nice to have this kind of, it's definitely a different vibe to teaching online, and I like it a lot. Yeah, I like it a lot. I just like being in academic environments in general a lot. I think it's cool. Like everyone is there agreeing that they're going to think really hard about something, which is like a nice change to the rest of life where people are essentially mostly going out to not think really hard about anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I liked it. It was fun.
How did you get in touch with the Slam universe? Did somebody reach out to you?
I believe JP reached out to me in 2016, maybe, and he asked me and KJ Sorka, or maybe we asked him, I can't remember.
Okay.
But me and KJ Sorka did like a workshop at Slam Academy in 2016, which is online.
There.
Oh, you were there? Yeah, nice.
Yeah, that was nice. I saw that performance you did before the workshop, and then got to see the workshop of how you guys described it. It was awesome. I think I saw it at Infrasound.
Nice. Yeah. So I think that might have been the first time that me and JP worked together on, some sort of level. We might have known each other before then. I can't remember. But yeah, then JP just hit me up like a few years later asking if I'd like to be an instructor at the Slam Academy thing in Denver. And I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? And then I moved to San Francisco shortly after I started that. So I couldn't continue it, unfortunately. But
okay.
Yeah.
Is that where you're currently living?
No, I'm in Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
Atlanta, nice. What brought you to Atlanta?
It's a long story. I basically went through some big ketamine addiction stuff, and then ended up moving across the country to Charlottesville to live with my manager to try and sober up, and then I don't know, just ended up buying a house here basically.
Cool. I've been there before, so I feel you on that, my friend.
Ketamine addiction.
Yeah. I got out of one too 2 years ago when I got into making music and got very serious. I had to kick that. So, but yeah.
Well, it's good you could kick it. Did you have to go to rehab?
No, I had a lot of friends that were like, hey, I'm not going to make music with you or hang. And my girlfriend's like, we're going to break up. So I'm like, okay, that's I think enough for me to stop right now.
Yeah. So I got to that point, but I didn't stop. And my girlfriend did break up with me, which is why I had to leave San Francisco.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was rough, man. It was super rough, but yeah, I'm glad to be out of it. I'm like, I think
I'm glad you are too,
man. Yeah, I'm a bit over 2 years sober now, so yeah.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
Thanks.
That's one of the bigger topics I feel that here at the Slam community we're open talking about, especially with people who we've had on our podcast. It seems to be I don't know, like sometimes an underlying current of sobriety and becoming more serious with a music
Mm.
career.
Is it
Like,
always ketamine, or is it usually something else?
I don't think it's, yeah.
It just depends because we've had like Virtual Riot was on here, and I'm not sure he was just on a lot of different things. And he moved
Yeah,
to Minnesota.
he went through the whole ketamine addiction thing too.
Yeah, he said he moved to Minnesota just to become sober because we had really good sober living houses and stuff for him. And then he just fell into the slam community as well with that. He like hit us up and he's like, I'm in Minnesota and I'm trying to be sober. Can I teach at your school? And that's how he ended up here.
Awesome.
So,
Does he still teach there?
yeah, he's ready to teach this. We're not going to say like the when, but right now he was teaching our electronic music class, the advanced, and then Skrillex hit him up to play a show in London, and now he's writing an album with Skrillex. And when he's done with that, he wants to come back. So because his girlfriend, who's I'm not sure if it's his girlfriend, but maybe his partner in crime, at least his VDJ, they're really close, lives in Minnesota. So that's where he kind of ended up with everybody. And also, you've been here before. We have a great community. It's very, especially in the music, in the kind of electronic music, I'd say.
Yeah, Minnesota's cool. I like it a lot. Good vibe.
I was even we were just watching a little bit of your infrasound set before we got on here. It looked really fun. I couldn't make it this year.
Yeah, infrasound's tight. I like that festival a lot.
Yeah, Minnesober, as they call it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So everybody, just in slam world, there is another end to an addiction if you want, and you can make it happen, and it helps with your career. You think that you might not, because we also have had some people thinking the whole, when I get sober, I might get less creative, or I might be harder to be like on top as good as I am. And every time I hear it, you kind of see through the fog after it, and you can work a little bit harder and feel at least like you're not going through the fog of it. At least for me, especially.
Yeah, I think productivity will always trump creativity. You can be like the most creative person in the world, but if you never put pen to paper, or you never sit down at your computer to write, or you can only sit down to write for like 20 minutes before you get high or something like that, then yeah, you're never going to really get anywhere. It's like, I would prefer to be like even fucking half as creative if it meant that I was like 3 or 4 times as productive.
Yes.
I think like in general, if you just grind at something for long enough, you will get some cool results out of it. Though you also have to be careful with that, because being in the grind set and like working way too hard, that can also be bad, and that can lead to burnout, which can lead back to addiction.
Yep. So it's just finding the balance, and we're all trying it all the time. I've got definitely a couple times have gone through burnout, and then you pulled yourself out and you're like, I haven't said hi to any of my friends or family in a while, and they're all worried about it. So I feel that I've had to tone back from burning out myself a couple times too.
Is there a specific technique that you use, or just a process for keeping the burnout away?
I try to stop working every day at around 8 or 9 p.m. That's my main thing, because it's very like, I start working as soon as I wake up, which is usually, I don't know, around 10 or 11 a.m. And it's very easy for me to work all the way until 5 a.m. and then get to sleep. And then the next day I'll wake up at 2 p.m. and then I'll work until like 9 p.m. or 9 a.m. the next day. And then I'll sleep until 6 p.m. And then it's very easy for me to get in this crazy loop where I'm working like extremely long hours and doing this like fucked up sleep schedule around those crazy long hours. So my strategy is just wake up, start working when I wake up, and just cut it off at like 8 or 9 p.m. and go watch YouTube videos and like try and get sleepy.
Enjoy your life outside of that. That's a great tip right there, to be honest.
Yeah, for me, for other people, it might be different. Like maybe they have the opposite problem, not working enough, and maybe they have to like force themselves to like get in the studio. I know a few people like that too, but for me, it's very much the opposite. It's like I have to force myself to get out of the studio.
Sounds like the best problem to have out of the two. I tend to lean more towards the other side of, okay, just sit down at the laptop and things will happen. But the grass is always greener on the other side.
Right. I've definitely gone through periods of my life where when I sat down at my computer, I'd have a hard time concentrating, and I would, like, instead of working, like, just be constantly on Twitter or social media or whatever. But the last few years, I've been pretty good at, like, not looking at social media that much. Like, I'll look at it for maybe 10 minutes a day or something, like, at night. But while I'm working, yeah, these days I'm pretty good at just staying in Ableton and just working.
Yeah.
But you can burn out really quick from doing that, for sure.
To keep me from grabbing my phone while I have Ableton open, I just have an iPad with skateboard videos just playing. That way I can just, like, if you get distracted from your head for 2 seconds, there's a guy doing a kick flip, and then you can get right back into Ableton.
True. That's kind of smart, actually, yeah.
ADD
like
tips. With
Yeah,
Neil.
I guess my equivalent of that is I do have Discord open on my second screen almost all the time. And I always have, like, WhatsApp open and Signal open and stuff on my other screen, just so, like, if I get a message or whatever, I can, like, quickly respond to it.
Sure.
But I definitely try not to have things like Instagram or Twitter or Facebook open, because those ones, they're like, the algorithms are just too strong. Yeah, they'll just rip you out of the creative process real quick.
1,000%.
Neil and I were talking about that this morning, because last night I deleted Instagram off of my phone because I've been in a hole for the last week and I just feel numb and I'm not creative. So just gotta get it out of my face.
Yeah, it's crazy how fucking shitty scrolling through Instagram for a long time will make you feel. Like, if you sit there all day scrolling through Instagram, it's wild how shitty you feel after that.
Yes. Like a shell of a person. They have got the addiction part of my brain just unlocked. It's crazy to think about how controlling it is.
Yeah.
But even you getting it down to 10 minutes that's pretty good, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, really, the only reason I look at it once, like, I pretty much look at it once a day, and it's just to see if I've got a DM, or, like, you know, if there's anything that's, like, even if shit has hit the fan and, like, I'm trying to get cancelled or something like that. I really just look at it once a day for that, like, just to see what's going on. And
so do you have somebody else help you post to your social medias then?
Yes, I do pay a marketing guy whose entire job is just to make posts on social media for me.
Perfect.
That's great.
Yep.
You're one of the first people to say that, so we also will agree with that.
Dude, it's been a game changer. Yeah, like, not having. So I do come up with the content and I send it to him. So I still have to, like, come up with, like, what we're going to post, but I just don't have to look at the platforms to post them myself.
That's awesome.
It's game changer.
Yeah, it's crazy how long it takes to, like, post something to 4 or 5 different platforms. It's like, you would think it would take like 2 seconds. You could just use some aggregator and send it all, or you could just quickly log into all of them, cut, paste, and post and ghost. But it's really not. Yeah, it takes a lot. Like, I noticed every time I have to make a post to a few things, it's like a solid hour or 2 of work.
Yeah.
It's a full job. It's like a part-time job or even a full-time gig if you're at the level that you're at.
Yeah.
Right.
The machine needs to be fed so much. It takes up so much time to feed it. SlamCast and Slam Academy just got their own, like, social media person. So now that is, like, one specific job for one specific person, which is such a weight lifted off of our shoulders personally, like running this podcast and posting clips and reels and stories and all that stuff. It just takes so much time.
Do you guys edit the podcast yourself?
Yep, I do all
the visuals and, like, the editing of the stuff.
Nice.
I listen to it and pick out the reels, send those timestamps to him, and then he creates the reels.
Yeah.
I do more of, like, the emailing people.
She's the manager.
Contacting and scheduling.
Yeah, it seems like a good setup.
Yeah, I do all the recording. I do all the vocal edit. I record it all in the Ableton, and then I mix it down. And then I do the camera switch between the two if I have a guest, and then I put it on. I put it all on YouTube, and then I run 2 other podcasts. I've been practicing, so, like, podcasting is something I've been really getting into the last year.
Nice.
And how long have you been doing your podcast for?
About 5 years now. I'm up to episode 160.
160. Oh yeah, 65, 68. You're right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, well, there's a couple that aren't out yet, but yeah, I think the last one I recorded was 167. Yeah.
Cool.
Nice.
How often are you dropping those podcasts?
I try to drop one every 2 weeks, but it doesn't always work out. Like, sometimes it'll be once every 2 weeks for a few months, and then there'll maybe be a couple of weeks where there isn't one. just because I'm like too busy or I forget to like record an episode or something. I quite often actually will organize to have a guest and then just completely forget that I did it. And just like, because like I said, I wake up and I just start working immediately. I don't wake up and look at my calendar first. I wake up and like just look at Ableton first. And so if I start working on something and I get really into it, I forget about everything else that I'm supposed to do. And so it's very common actually that I forget to do a podcast and have to reschedule. And if that happens like a few times in a row, which it often does, then there might be not an episode for an extra week or two here and there.
Well, that makes me extra happy to be sitting down with you today. And
yeah, I actually remembered today, which was good.
Thanks for
Nailed
that.
It. And ours comes out every 2 weeks as well too. And we've done 18 episodes now. We started last year at some point.
Yeah, once every 2 weeks seems to be like a pretty solid cadence, I think, for most people. I really don't understand how someone like, I guess for Joe Rogan, it's like his full-time job, but that dude does like fucking, 6-7 podcasts a week. It's insane.
For 3 hours, dang. Yeah.
Well, when you have a team, like I'm sure Joe Rogan does, and
he claims that it's just that one guy, Jamie, but yeah, I'm sure he has like a bigger team around.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like I do 12 a month. I do 10 a month now, and it still takes a lot. Yeah. I can only
it's
imagine
like a full-time job, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But we also still have to go to work, so
I'm not Jamie quite
yet.
Not
at that level yet.
Right. What do you guys do for work?
I'm a server at a comedy club, and then an event DJ, nice. Wedding DJ, and then I work here at Slam as well. And then I actually get paid for all the podcasts I produce, so I get paid for that.
Oh, that's sick. So you get to see like a bunch of comedy?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Chris Porter's here this week. He's one of my favorite.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I love comedy. And wait, what do you do, Brie?
Right now I just got an office job again for what I went to school for, which is I'm a structural designer, so I 3D model commercial buildings, like the steel and the concrete. So it's
nice. Do you use like SolidWorks or Rhino or something?
I use Revit mostly, sometimes AutoCAD. I'd like it. It's it's a desk job and it has really good benefits, and I can work from home 3 days a week, so it lets me be more creative and spend less time on the road and getting ready for work. So I do really like that part of it. But I did meet Neil at the comedy club, so I waitress there for 3 years, and nice. I still work there on the weekends sometimes. So I stay pretty busy. I have a band, and I'm a visual artist as well. So
nice, that's awesome. Yeah, I really wanted to get into I really want to get into something like Rhino or SolidWorks at some point to try and like model some stuff. I really want to get a 3D printer and start like,
same.
Like I said, I've been getting into like building synths, like I said, and EQs and stuff. So like very quickly after getting into that and watching a bunch of stuff on YouTube, I've realized how fucking useful a 3D printer is. It's like you just need some random little like thing to fit in some very specific hole, or like a very specific bracket to hold a very specific thing. You just print it, which is awesome.
Yeah. No, my with 3D printer, these have things on them right here. They were 3D printed so that they don't break. For your
nice.
Did you print those?
Yeah, we bought them off a guy.
Did you print those?
No, we didn't. We bought them off a guy for $10.
Oh,
but
cool.
but they're making so that like I broke one of these hinges, and now you can put them back together.
I wonder what the math is on like how much stuff you need to print with a 3D printer before it pays itself off.
I wonder too. I think it's the guy provided a service, so like he would make custom stuff as well. So maybe per thing.
I feel like it would pay itself off, and like depending on how much you use it, of course, but like a year, because you could like, I don't know, instead of but also you would need to buy the materials to keep printing stuff. I don't know any of the cost.
And you would need to learn how to like do CAD stuff, which I have no idea. I've never even tried to do it.
I think, isn't it Blender or something like that, where you can?
You can use Blender or you can use Fusion, I think. But I think you could also use stuff like Rhino, or you probably use SolidWorks too. But I think SolidWorks is more for like robotics and shit.
Okay.
While I was thinking about it, I was wondering who came up with your logo, the little blob guy. He's really
Oh
cute.
yeah, that was Funny Lab. He's an artist from Italy. He just hit me up in, I think, 2012 after I put some music on SoundCloud. He just found it and was like, "Yo, this is sick. Let me do a cover for you." And then he just did. The covers he made were really really good, and so yeah, I just love his style. So we've just worked together since, and he's just become like the full-time guy who does all of my artwork.
I love it. He's so cute. Who does your visuals stuff for your live performance? Because that little guy is all over those
Yeah,
things.
same guy does
Okay.
all those. He
Nice.
he makes I don't know if you've ever used Quill VR, but it's basically like this VR program called Quill where you can just draw and paint in 3D space, and it can go
I've seen
infinitely
videos of
in
that.
and infinitely out. Yeah, so he does that. He also uses Photoshop. He's like an illustrator, so he'll like, have a tablet and draw stuff in Photoshop. But lately he's been super into Quill VR, which is this just like painting in 3D space kind of program. And I really like the style, but that's how he made all the videos. So all the videos were made in VR, and then he sends me the clips, which are like 5 to 10-second clips, and then I have like a Resolume / Ableton setup that I use to sequence all of the clips in time. And then after I've sequenced them all in time, I record them in real time out into OBS, and then I put that recorded sequence into another Resolume session, which is triggered by another Ableton session for my like playback thing, which is what I actually play back with live.
Oh shoot!
Wow.
Are you on stage actually performing the lights or the light show too? Then is that what you're saying?
So there is no lights in the set; it's just video.
Oh, the video I meant. Sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, all the video is triggered, and all of the music is triggered from the same laptop. Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like a way that I can, as a single person, tour like a professional looking AV show without needing a team to tour with me. I don't tour with like a tour manager or a VJ or anything. I just do it all myself off the one laptop.
That's very impressive.
That must be a very hard working laptop.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. It's it's got a 4090 in it, and I think an Intel 14900K. It's a beast.
So you have a visual and audio workshop coming up in May, I believe. Is that
in Boston? Yeah.
Yeah, is that what you will be talking about then? Is how to do that type of thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, I'm going to talk about how I do the sequencing process and how I do the how I turn it all into a playback session to play live. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Do you have two Ableton live sessions at once going on the same computer, or are they all just triggered off the same one session?
I have one Ableton live session open, and I have Resolume open on the same computer, so they just sit side by side.
Oh,
and
cool.
Ableton sends MIDI OSC to Resolume, and then there's CliffX clips in the Ableton session as well as the waves. So when I like click a scene in Ableton, it triggers the right video, plays the right song, changes the session BPM to the correct BPM, and all this stuff. Yeah, basically I can just like, when I usually when someone's on a CDJ, they trigger a track and it just plays that track from the cue point that they set it to. It's kind of the same situation. I can just DJ like that, but whenever I trigger something, it triggers a video as well as the audio. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Do you have any videos online about that technique, or is it just the workshop coming up in person?
I haven't got any videos online about it just yet. I kind of want to make some though, because I think it would be interesting for some people. Yeah, and I think. Sorry, go on.
No, you're right. I was like, I already have some friends that were already like trying to figure out how to do that and would love that kind of information right now. So there is
not a lot of good information out there about it. So yeah, I might make some videos on it. It's just, it is quite a complicated process, and I'm trying to figure out like what the easiest way would be to explain it. I think it would have to maybe be a multi-part series thing or something. Like if I did it all in one video, the video would probably be like over an hour long, which could also be fine. Maybe I'll do that. I'm also just not like very good at producing YouTube videos. Like I'm okay at like turning OBS on and just talking for a bunch of time, but I fucking hate editing video. I don't know why. I just never liked doing it.
Do you edit all your own videos?
I mean, generally I don't edit videos at all. I just hit record, talk, and then whatever comes out of OBS is what I post.
Ah, nice.
I usually don't do any editing. I've had people do
That's
my
like
editing
JP
in the
does it
past.
too.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the sick thing about tutorials is the information in them, not necessarily the editing. Though it is nice to have a nicely edited video, but yeah, that's also part of why I guess I haven't made this video yet, is because for it to be cohesive, I would need to do a lot of editing to show the right things at the right times, versus like otherwise it's just going to look like a mess on my screen constantly of like, you know, 4 or 5 different programs open doing various shit.
Yeah.
Well, that looks like a really cool workshop. I wish I lived in Boston so I could come and see that.
Nice.
Hey, we're getting close to the hour.
Yeah.
We're having a great time talking with you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, thank you again for being on here. It was lovely to meet you. Before we land this plane, we always like to ask our guests if they have any advice for the Slam community. Yeah, any advice?
Advice. I mean, what is the Slam community lacking in, you think? What kind of advice do you feel like they need?
Ooh. Any advice on the confidence to finish tracks? A lot of the people are newer producers and would like, and kind of have a lot of trouble thinking like tracks aren't good enough. So maybe somewhere along those lines.
Only you can know if the track you've made is sick, right? And it should only matter to you. And if you think it's really sick, then you should just, you know, it's your track. You think it's sick. What else is there to do if you think it's sick?
Get it out there.
And like, yeah, I mean, I think Rick Rubin said in his book, or maybe he said it in an interview, that the best barometer for whether somebody else is going to like your music is if you yourself like it. And I guess that's like a big part of why a lot of people feel that way, or at least when I'm you know, feeling a little not confident in a track of mine, it's because I think other people aren't going to like it generally, or that I personally just don't like it as much as I like, say, somebody else's song or something like that. And in those cases, I mean, yeah, you just got to work harder on the song, I guess, until you yourself think that it's really sick. But yeah, nobody else can decide what's sick for you. You just have to do the things to make it sick. But I mean, in terms of like mix downs and stuff like that, if you think your track isn't mixed as well or produced as well as somebody else's track, you really can't go wrong with references. Like, just reference your track against somebody else's track. Make sure you level match them. And just see like what the differences are. Like, your brain is very good at playing spot the difference. So if you use references that are level matched, you can very quickly be like, oh, their track is way brighter, or like my track has way too much sub, or like something like that. Yeah. So I think in that case, that can be like a pragmatic thing that you can do to make sure that your stuff is like competitively aligned in terms of loudness and brightness and all of that stuff. But in terms of vibe, yeah, you have to be the barometer for that, for sure.
Be the barometer for the vibes. You choose how your tracks end.
Exactly.
I love that, man. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to meet with us. And Slam thanks you also. We can't wait.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate the call. And yeah, good luck with the podcast.
Thank you. We appreciate it, man.
Cool. All right.
Sweet.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bill.
Care.
Have a good day.
Thanks for watching SlamCast. Wasn't that a fun episode?
Want to become a member at Slam Academy? Go to slamacademy.com for more information.
Thanks for watching. Bye.